All right. Well, it's been roughly a week since I worked on this last. We had power crews last weekend. We were trying to go to. Don't mind my face. I've already been working on it quite a bit today. There wasn't much to see. I had to remove this. Being a C7 Corvette, you have to remove the steering rack to get the harmonic balancer out. So we'll. I got the timing cover bolts out. Remembered I should probably record this so we can make a good video for you guys. But yeah, so basically all we're doing today is I'm probably going to put you in a time lapse. I'm going to do the rest of the cam swap, and hopefully here in about an hour or two I'm putting the heads back on, but we'll see. We got to do valve springs, we got to do lifters, and we have to do we have to put the cam in, obviously. So we'll get on that. We'll put you in a time lapse. All right, so what we're doing here is we're going to be locking out the cam phaser. These cams from the factory have a certain degree amount of phase they can advance and retard the cam timing in order to be more efficient, if you will. Not really a thing. Not really what we're looking for on this car. So what we're doing is we got to put this lockout tab inside of the cam phaser so the cam phaser can't turn, and then this will go back on the car. The new cam is already in there, as you saw in the time lapse. Once I get this back together, then I can get that put back on. Then we can put the lifters in. We can put the valley cover and everything back together. It'll be good. So we'll try to get this on video as best we can, and then we'll put it back on time lapse and keep putting the engine back together. All right. The goal here, you take this one loose and you just leave it loose. This one is the pin that comes all the way through. What you got to do is you got to put this on there. Like that. Maybe. Well, this phaser lockout toolkit sucks. I don't see how you're supposed to be able to use this. So I'm going to find my other lockout tool, because whatever one this came with, I don't know who made this, but this thing sucks. It doesn't work. So luckily I have another one in a bag somewhere that I keep for myself, but we'll get this back. All right, I found a different one. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I don't know. It's like the LT4 cam phaser might be a little bit different, so I don't know if this is going to work or not. Like there's two springs, which is interesting. We're going to have to do some research, because they sent me all this stuff for the LT4, but it's like there's two springs on this that I've never seen before, so might be a little different. Hopefully that doesn't stop us today. I don't know if you can see this, but there's two springs on here. I've never seen two on there, so that's a little strange, and those are not equipped to do both, and it's, I don't know, a little different, so I'm going to have to do some research. Well, this certainly isn't the right way to do it, but basically I took both of these in, and I stuck the pin in so it locks it out. With any luck, it won't come apart, because I imagine one of these is not cheap to buy, but we're going to video me opening it up, putting the lockout in, and closing it back. So, wish me luck. We're just going to see what we can figure out here. One. I've done this a bunch of times because I do a lot of Gen 5 cam swaps, and I've probably built 10 motors over the last 4 or 5 years for various people, mostly myself. I like to break shit. But I've never run into this double sprung delete, because that's why these are so thin, because they usually only have one spring. It looks like the Texas Speed, or at least the named LT4 one, has it's much thicker and has a different style of lockout pin. So now you open this up, obviously a bunch of and you take this here slug. As you can see, this cam phaser will move around, and you stick this sucker in there. Maybe. Might have to coerce it a little. There we go. So now that's set. Now we can flip this shut just as quick as we opened it. And I like to put this one back in first. Because this is the one that'll keep your shit from coming apart. Alright, now I'll put a dab of blue Loctite on the other few bolts, and I'll probably pull this one back out and put a little dab of Loctite on it. Just some blue stuff. You use the red, it'll never come apart again. Ask me how I know. And I'm sure there's a torque spec for these. I just know what they feel like when I tear them apart, so. Pull this one back out real quick. Whoa. And there it is. It's that easy. We locked out the cam phaser, and now all you gotta do, pull your pin out and pull these off. She's good to go. Well, better tighten this one. She's locked out. She's ready to go back on the car. We'll clean her up first, obviously. Perfect. Now we're going to go back into a time lapse. Pretty satisfying watching brake clean dry. That's why I blow on it. We're going to go into a time lapse, and now you're going to see me put this sucker back together. I'll set that there for the time being. We'll get you set back up. So here's a trick you may or may not know about. This is a tapered roller bearing. You can get it, this is the part number, it's A37 or PBR37, anyhow, it's a 37. But basically, you cut the cage off of it, and you take these little Timken bearings, and they fit perfectly in the towers of these LS or LT motors. And you just take a hammer and make them flush. And then you don't have to buy an expensive aftermarket cover, which for the LS isn't a big deal because you can get non-DoD covers. But for the LT, a little bit different deal. You're talking $300-400 sometimes for a delete cover. So this is a much more cost-effective way of doing it. All right, so what you see here, CHE trunnions, and I gotta basically pop all the trunnions out of the factory rocker arms here. The purpose of doing this is, well, it's quite simple really. When I pop this apart, you'll see that it has needle bearings in here. And, well, needle bearings are not something you want in a high-performance engine, because if they fail, then they send the needles through everything. So these are trunnion, or they're bushings. They're a bronze bushing, or yeah, bronze or brass bushing, whatever they are. Anyhow, they completely eliminate the need for needle bearings in the engine. And so in doing that, you eliminate the risk of failure. So we've got it focused on the dash, or on the vise here. Because you need a 7/8 socket. You open the vise up, center the 7/8 up, put the 9/16 on it. Honestly, the way I've done it in the past is I like the side with the two squares on it to be on the 7/8 side, and put the 9/16 on here, and then like we're gonna have to get a smaller one. Probably get a 1/2 inch or something to fit in there. There we go. So now if you see all these needle bearings, those are exactly what you don't want in your engine. And so now your rocker arm ends up looking like this, nice and open. So now what I need to do is drop the rocker arm first. That usually helps. Rinse this off. I like to read the instructions every time I do this because otherwise I screw it up. Okay, it wants me to have a Scotch-Brite. Let's grab one of them. All right, grabbed one of them. We usually keep them on hand for when we paint stuff. So we usually keep a box on hand. And you know what? I don't need it to be this big. So we will fold it in half. Well, that was neat. Now I've got 3 pieces, I guess. No problem. Now it wants me to after you've so we'll do one here and then I'll put it into a time lapse. So just wanted me to do a light cleaning and then take a pair of these bushings, dip them in oil. Place it on a flat surface with the bushing. Now, let's put the bushing in there like that. Slide this through. The other bushing, put it on there like that. Dang, looky there. Take this here snap ring. Guess that's why it had me grab snap ring pliers. Where the heck did I put them? You guys ever do that? You get you a pair of snap ring pliers out and then you can't find them? Okay. Where did I put them? Oh, there they are. Right on my tool cart. That makes sense. So now, probably need to clean this little area here. We'll put this in here like this. Get my snap ring pliers, open this up, get it on there, flip it over, another snap ring. Ooh, scary. So I always keep my hands on the snap ring whenever I do this, because if I let it go, it's inevitable. That thing is flinging across the shop. And there it is, that easy. Now you have, the other purpose of this is your factory rocker arms, they only go so far. They don't rotate 360 degrees. So if you get a really big lift, really high lift cam, it increases the risk of failure. Whereas these will spin all the way around, so there's zero risk of this failing now. And that's that simple. Now we have one finished rocker arm. I'm going to set it off to the side here. I'm going to put you in a time lapse, and I'm going to put my podcast back on, and we're going to knock the rest of these out. All right, don't mind my face. I know I'm dirty. I'm going to call it a night, but basically, here's what we got done tonight. Got the heads torqued on. Got the cam installed. Got the trunnion upgrade in there. Trunnion bushings. All that's really left is to turn it over and make sure we don't have any piston to valve contact and make sure we have everything in time, which I triple checked it, so I'm fairly confident there's not going to be anything, but I was going to maybe put the valve covers on. Oh, I'm seeing valves move. Yep, turns over. No piston to valve contact. Everything seems good. So tomorrow, I was going to put the valve covers on, but the valve covers really limit your access over here to the header bolts. So I need to get it up in the air, get the headers pulled out, get them put on. Once I get them put on, then I can put the valve covers on, then I can put the blower back on. This thing's probably going to run tomorrow. So stay tuned, and we'll see you then. I'm probably going to make this into one video, so we'll see at the end of it, I guess. And we're back. It's a fresh day. I'm going to get the headers pulled out. We're going to get the car jacked up. We're going to slide the headers in from underneath, and we're going to get them put on. Once those are on, then it's going to go back together rather quickly. So we'll go ahead and time lapse that, and we'll see you back when it's at least halfway put together. So basically, I got the valve covers and everything put on. Went to set the blower on, realized that was definitely not going to fit. So I decided to pull out the instructions and actually read them. Turns out you have to relocate the coils, and I don't know how well you can see this, you have to cut the upper mounts off of the coils. You have to cut them off of the valve covers. And so they wanted me to use these little wedges that it comes with, and I don't even know where they are now. Set them somewhere. And use a bandsaw, but I don't have an upright bandsaw big enough, so I'm just using my grinder, and it's working just fine. So I'm gonna maybe record doing this one, and we'll show you kind of how I did it. All right, I killed the fan a little bit. Oop. Don't mind me, just having a struggle. All right, so moved the fan, or shut the fan off. Got you set up there. We'll grab a fresh blade real quick. Good old Harbor Freight Hercules blades. Well, they really don't want you getting into these things. All right. Believe it or not, this is only a portion of this car's build, is this blower. So we're just going to get in here and come in at about an angle like this. battery might be getting a little low. We'll grab a freshie. But aluminum is not very easy to cut with these grinder blades. Very soft and gums up the grinder wheel. Nope, not yet. Well, maybe. Let's see if we can do this. Alright, that one looks pretty good, but I tell you what, the Bauer blade I had on that before cut that way easier, so I'm going to go see if I got another one of them, because that was miserable. We'll see if we've got any over here in the welding cart. Found 2 used ones. See if that's enough. Hercules blades must be a different grit or something, because that sucked. Look how gummed up the wheel is. Oh yeah, that's much better. Grab my safety glasses. Woo! Ah! All right, see, may not be the right way to do it, the way they want you to do it, but it's the way I do it, and it'll work. Makes a big ass mess though, I'll tell you that. So now we'll take some brake clean, we'll rinse this thing off, blow it out with the air blower. And now you have a valve cover that has them deleted. So we'll get the seal put back on it, and we'll go ahead and get it put back on the car there. And hopefully now we can relocate the fuel line because it wants me to do a relocation there. And then we should be able to put the blower on the car. Take two. Well, I thought I turned on the time lapse, but apparently I didn't. But anyway, the blower is on. I need to bolt it down yet. I've spent the last 15 minutes walking around looking for the bolts because I had them sitting in this pile of crap over here. But I found them, so now I'm going to get it bolted on. But look at how freaking massive it is. You can see why you had to cut the valve covers, that's for sure. This thing's going to make some steam. But I'm just looking around, making sure I actually clear everything. Make sure I cut off enough of the valve cover, which it looks like I did on both sides. We're not contacting anywhere, so I think we're golden. But yeah, you actually have to pull the intercooler bricks out. And if you've ever pulled the intercooler bricks out of any supercharger, you can tell these ones are made to keep this sucker cool. These are freaking huge, and they're really beefed up on the sides. This is crazy. So these will definitely keep this keep the IATs down on this bad girl. So we're gonna get her bolted down. That I am gonna put into a time lapse. I'm gonna make sure this time. But then once we get that done, then we can get spark plugs put in it. Then we can get the coils mounted. I do need to get a hold of Holly and see if we can get some spark plugs coming home for this deal. But once we do that, then we can button it up, start putting all the crap on the front of the motor again. So we still may hear some smoke out of the pipes today. We'll see. You good? So I've been working on this thing pretty much nonstop. I didn't record much yesterday. As you can see, I got her pretty well buttoned up here. There's no coolant in it, no coolant for the blower, no coolant for the engine, but I just want to see if it runs. So we've got the plugs in, everything's in there. It should start. I just put a little bit of oil in it because I drained a little when I had to put the headers in. Because you got to disconnect the dry sump tank to get the passenger side header on. So I lost like 3 quarts there. So I threw a little bit of oil in it just to make sure it has enough. I just want to start it, hear it run for a few seconds, make sure everything's kosher. It has no exhaust on it, so it's going to be very loud. It's open headers. Other than that, this is the first startup of the whole new setup. It's got a new cam, new blower, new everything. But everything is connected So it should fire right up. But let's see. We're gonna see what happens here. And I'm not gonna let it run very long because it is, like I said, it's open header, so it's very, very loud. It'll be very loud. I need you to look underneath too, make sure we're not leaking anything. I'm gonna turn the key on first. Oh.
X-band, K-band, Ka-band, laser.
Nothing's leaking? I know the intercooler pump should be running. All right, that was a successful first start. Had 40 pounds of oil pressure on startup there. Money. Now, unfortunately, I have to take a bunch of this crap apart because I went to the funny thing about doing a bunch of mods all at once is a lot of times you end up finishing one mod and then realizing you got to take half your crap apart again to put another mod in. So that was me last night. I must have had this intake pipe on and off of here probably 5 times between the Cortez expansion tank, all the hoses for the brick here, the catch can, like it was a mess. And full disclosure, totally forgot to unhook the steering, and both Holly and I agree that that seems like a pretty important thing to hook up on a car. So I'm gonna have to get in there and finagle that back in, and looking like that's going to be a lot easier if I take this expansion tank back off. But in order to put this intercooler in here, this brand new heat exchanger, I need to take the radiator out of the car. So we're going to do that. That's the last thing to do under the hood. Besides, I will also probably at the same time start installing the meth kit because I have to run hoses and drill a hole into the intake pipe to get the nozzle set up. So we're going to kind of do all that at once. But it ran, so we're about 85% of the way there. But this thing's got a fresh cam. It took a while to crank over because these have a high pressure fuel system, so it takes a while for that thing to build up fuel pressure to get it to start. But once it did, obviously it fired right up. So pretty happy with that. No leaks, didn't catch on fire. We're in good shape. So quiet. So listen to that cam chop.
New exhaust.
does that sound rowdy. All right, now I gotta finish the cooling system. A couple other things.